Hey there, I'm going to try and beat Pokemon Sapphire, but only with status damage. Let's get started. When trying to rescue Professor Birch, I can't choose any of the regular starters since none of them can inflict poison or burn. Torchic has a 10% chance to burn with Ember, but only learns this at level 10. Since I have no way of leveling up without a status move, I modified the starters and gave myself a very easily available Pokemon, Wurmple. Wurmple at level 5 has Poison Sting, which has a 30% chance to poison, and that's the only way I can deal damage. I know that Poison Sting does have primary damage, but I didn't want to modify the game further by giving myself a guaranteed poisoning move or a Pokemon that has those moves. With that, I'll get into the rules for the challenge. I can't use any pure damaging moves that have no secondary effect to poison or burn. Moves that do have a chance to poison or burn can only be used once for each enemy Pokemon. In case I fail to poison or burn, then I cannot use the same move again. Additionally, I cannot one-shot Pokemon with these moves. In case any Pokemon struggles, I have to reset, since they take recoil damage. For the first fight, I kept resetting until I got a poison, and then stalled with String Shot, since I can't attack, only to realize that the Poochyena will always flee if your health gets too low. With this in mind, I kept resetting until I got a Wurmple with an Impish nature, which increases defense and reduces special attack growth. This would be useful considering that most Pokemon at early levels only have physically damaging moves. So after getting Wurmple from Birch, I decided to grind to level 7 and then fight May. Grinding is miserable since I have to flee the battles I don't poison and wait 15 turns for them to faint if I do. I also have to visit the PC very often since I need enough HP to survive all their attacks. I initially tried to avoid Poochyenas who only know Tackle till level 4. I also realized too late that Wurmple cannot get poisoned by Poison Sting because of its ability Shield Dust, which prevents secondary effects of moves such as the poison of Poison Sting. The only Pokemon I can realistically defeat is Zigzagoon, but as you can see, even after proccing poison, you can still very easily lose the fight, courtesy of being a potato. After ages of running, fainting, and healing, I managed to evolve my Wurmple into a Cascoon, which was perfect because as you can see, Beautifly has more offensive stats, which are completely useless, while Dustox has better defensive stats and also learns Toxic at level 38. The next step was fighting May. After resetting till I got a poison, the fight was relatively easy, even though she crit me on the first hit. With my good defense stats and Harden, we were able to win. I beat the next trainer and got a bunch of Zigzagoons that could give me items with their ability Pickup. After beating a few trainers in wild Pokemon, my Cascoon evolved into a Dustox. While in the forest, I caught a Shroomish and Slakoth and decided to head for the first gym. Now while recording the main video, I beat the first 2 gyms, but only with the help of potions. But later on I decided to make it even harder and redo it without any direct healing items. So I loaded an old save file and began prepping for the Roxanne battle. I decided to catch a bunch of Skitty as they know the move Attract. The strategy to beat Roxanne was simple. Start off with Dustox to poison, otherwise reset. In the scenario that I do poison, I switch to Slakoth to tank Rock Tomb, so I get a free turn for my Skitty. Once Skitty is out, I use Attract to immobilize him while I lower his attack with Growl. In the meantime, Roxanne wastes both her potions on Geodude. After beating Geodude, I have to hope that I poison her Nosepass, otherwise I have to reset and repeat the whole process again. This takes multiple resets, as getting 2 poisons is just not very likely. However, after finally poisoning her Nosepass, I am able to stall for enough turns to knock her out. Next up is Brawly, but before that I have a lot of training and catching to do. The cave in Dewford has Geodude and Makuhita, which grant defense and HP EVs respectively, which are obviously crucial to me being able to survive fights. Before we fight Brawly, I decide to catch 5 Makuhitas for one reason: Sand Attack. Yes, I'm stooping that low. The plan to beat Brawly goes like this: Poison Machop, then String Shot twice, which is just enough to allow my Makuhitas to outspeed. After sacking one Makuhita, I proceed to Sand Attack and hope for the best. After lowering his accuracy 6 stages, I switch to Dustox to stack Hardens so that I can tank Makuhita after Brawly uses both potions. I have to pray that I poison Makuhita or start over. After many tries, I finally manage to land a poison, and with the help of Protect and my boosted defenses, I'm able to take out his Makuhita. Beating Brawly brings me to a big landmark in the challenge. On Route 110, you can catch a Gulpin, which knows Poison Gas, a move that poisons with 55% accuracy. Although the accuracy is terrible, at least I can use it multiple times till I hit, since it does no damage. Fighting trainers is feasible now, and using the XP share, I begin to train Gulpin and Shroomish for the upcoming gym fight. At this point of the game, I hit a wall. It is impossible for me to beat Watson through status damage. As you can see, 2 of his Pokemon are Steel types, which are immune to poison. The only other status left is Burn, which I have no access to because all the Fire Pokemon are only available after Rock Smash, which you can only use after beating the 3rd gym. I actually tried to take Torchic as my starter, with the plan of catching 6 Zigzagoons and running around waiting for rare candies, which would allow me to level without battling. Unfortunately, you can only get Pokeballs after you defeat May, which is impossible at level 5 with these rules. But even if you could hack and give yourself Pokeballs, pickup only works after you win battles, which we have no way of doing. So for this gym battle, I'm going to have to use Leech Seed. It's the closest to status damage and won't be used again. I open the fight with Leech Seed, then stall till Watson burns his first potion. Eventually, the Magnemite faints and I switch to Gulpin to poison the Voltorb in case he doesn't use Explosion. Unfortunately, I'm not able to predict the explosion and Dustox takes considerable damage. At this point though, Dustox knows Protect, which allows me to recover easily. For the Magneton, I use another Leech Seed and wait for Watson to use his last potion while I burn moves. With this, I can finally catch Fire Pokemon and proceed to catch a bunch of Slugmas at Fiery Path. Slugma knows Ember and one of its abilities is Flame Body. This is important because I have to face an unavoidable trainer whose last Pokemon is a Roselia, which is Poison/Grass type. Her Roselia cannot be poisoned and doesn't know any contact moves, so I have to keep resetting until I get a burn with Ember, which only has a 10% chance of proccing. While resetting a bunch of times, it was actually her Numel that burned me twice before I finally got lucky and got a burn. After beating more trainers, Gulpin evolved into Swalot and finally learned Toxic. I then added a Grimer to my team and went on to challenge Archie. Archie has a Golbat, which I can't poison, but since it uses contact moves, I used the Slugmas I had caught to burn him with Flame Body. After that, things were pretty standard and we beat Archie. The next gym leader was Flannery. I had increased my special defense with Amnesia against her first 2 Pokemon, so her Torkoal's overheat did nothing. After using Encore, which further reduced her special attack, I just had to wait for the poison to take her down. Facing Norman was easier than I thought. Since his last Slacking always loafs off on turn 1, we Toxic him with Swalot and then switch to sack a Pokemon when he attacks. After that, all we have to do is switch to Dustox and Protect on the turns that Slacking attacks, and then Harden when he is loafing around, till he eventually faints. The next gym leader is Skyla, who has a Skarmory, which is another steel type. This time, however, we can catch a Vulpix at Mount Pyre that knows Will-O-Wisp. The fight begins and we toxic her first 4 Pokemon and eventually take them down. Skarmory is her last Pokemon, so we switch to Vulpix and wait for her to slowly tick down to the burn. I then decided to add a Shedinja to my team, even though most gym leaders or Elite Four members have multiple ways to deal with him. Duskull was the next addition because he learns Will-O-Wisp and has really good defensive stats. In the meantime, my Grimer evolved into Muck and I headed for the next gym. Tate and Liza were definitely not an easy gym because they have access to Psychic, which destroys most of my team. I start off the battle with Muck and Dustox. Since it's a double battle, I protect first with Dustox, hoping they double up on me, while I toxic with Muck. On the next turn, I set up Light Screen, while Muck uses Toxic. Muck can take a Psychic because of its hefty special defense stats. Lunatone luckily misses her Hypnosis, while I try to disable Solorock's Psychic, but instead disable Sunny Day. Muck goes down to a Psychic thanks to an earlier special defense drop, while I use Moonlight in advance. After this, I pretty much just stall with Dustox and Pelipper's Protect, and eventually win the battle. The last gym leader we have to face is Wallace, and now you can see why I had chosen Muck. Muck learns Minimize and Acid Armor, which are perfect for this kind of challenge. So I set up with Muck and took down his first 3 Pokemon without much hassle, but get one hit KO'd by his Seeking despite 5 evasiveness boosts, which was pretty hilarious. Despite the bad luck, we still managed to beat Wallace pretty easily. Now, only the Elite Four was left, which I could manage, but I knew that in order to stand a chance against Steven, I would have to level up my Pokemon. Since Steven has 3 Steel types, it would be impossible for my Dusclops to tank that much damage, trying to burn each of them. Keeping this in mind, I decided to make Vulpix the final addition to my team. Although its defenses aren't that great, it has decent HP and good speed, allowing me to outspeed all of Steven's generally slow Pokemon. So I caught the correct nature Vulpix and EV trained it perfectly. While training, I decided to work on my strategy. The Lily Cove Mart lets you buy the TM Protect, so I stocked up on those. I got rest from the guy in Lily Cove and taught it to Muck, since I can't use items to heal. Lastly, I used all the rare candies I had stored up. With the preparations finally complete, I began the Elite Four challenge. Sydney was a walkover. Nothing new except an exploit I did with his Absol. His Absol knows Snatch, which steals stat increases. So I just kept using Stockpile for fun, while he kept stealing the useless stat buff. For Phoebe and the rest of the Elite Four, I gave Muck a Chesto Berry, which cures sleep after he uses rest. The battle was pretty standard after that, except at one point where I was left with 1 HP. But otherwise it was pretty smooth sailing. Glacier was next, and there were some interesting things about this battle. Most of her Pokemon do not have super effective moves on Shedinja, but all her Pokemon know Hail except Wall Rain. So Shedinja will faint to hail damage if it is set up. I decided to have a little fun here by teaching Shedinja Sunny Day. Her Pokemon prioritize setting up hail instead of doing damage, so I wasted a few turns using Sunny Day over and over while her Sealeo did the same with hail. Her Wall Rain has no moves to damage Shedinja, so after using Toxic, I switched to Shedinja to stare him down, while he slowly ticked down to poison. Drake also went down without much of a hassle after I had successfully managed to set up Muck. Now if you thought that Steven would be easy, since the Elite Four were a walk in the park, you would be dead wrong. Steven is the antithesis to my team. Let me explain why. Steven has 3 Steel-type Pokemon that have to be burned, one of which is his Metagross, that knows Psychic and Earthquake. two moves that destroy almost every team that tries to burn or poison Pokemon. And on top of that, he has a grand total of 4 full restores. 4. A minimum 2 of which almost always heal his steel types, which force me to burn him again and wait patiently. 3 of his Pokemon know the move Ancient Power, which has a 10% chance of giving a boost to all stats, which effectively causes Pokemon to attack first, hence not allowing me the chance to heal back the damage or setup. On top of that, if any of his Pokemon crit besides Skarmory, we basically lose the fight because critical hits ignore all defensive stat boosts. In addition to this, Toxic has a 85% accuracy, while Will-O-Wisp only has a 75% accuracy in Generation 3. And since he has 6 Pokemon and 4 full restores, I have to use these status moves 10 times, so I have a decent chance of missing at crucial moments. Now that we have established that Steven is difficult to beat, let's discuss my weird strategy to beat him. Shedinja. Well, kinda. Let me explain. Our biggest obstacle besides luck is Steven's Metagross. As mentioned earlier, he demolishes our team. Luckily, Metagross and Aggron have no moves that damage Shedinja. However, there is a huge problem to this strat in the form of Skarmory. Steven's Skarmory knows Spikes, a move that does damage when a Pokemon is switched in, which would instantly knock out my Shedinja. Along with this, it also knows Toxic, which is a pain to deal with. Since I am not allowed to one-shot this Skarmory, I have to find a way to prevent it from using Spikes long enough till it faints. I'm sure you know where this is going, and it's Attract. This is why I caught a Vulpix that was female. Same-sex attraction unfortunately doesn't exist in Pokemon yet. With this plan in mind, I began the fight with Steven, over and over and over. As you can see, Steven always uses a full restore on his Skarmory, and his Skarmory has a very strong affinity to use Spikes and Toxic. For Toxic I have Safeguard, but otherwise I just have to get lucky or keep resetting. I must have reset at least 50 times before his Skarmory fainted without using Spikes. He sent out his Metagross next, and my plan was to quickly burn him and switch out before taking too much damage. But as you can see, I missed Will-O-Wisp 3 times, and I actually stopped to laugh out loud. I thought that I had lost, but decided to play it out. Comically, he missed his Meteor Mash, and I was able to get the burn off with Dusclops. After this, I switched in Shedinja, and then switched back to Dustox, anticipating his switch out. I was then able to stall out his Claydol with a combination of Light Screen, Protect, and Moonlight. After that, his Cradily was next, and I alternated between healing and protecting to survive the Ancient Power damage. His Cradily confused me with Confuse Ray, so I switched out to Muck and waited for him to tick down to Toxic. Aggron was next, so I used Will-O-Wisp with Dusclops and then switched to Shedinja. This forced him to switch out to Armaldo on the next turn, and I sent out my Dustox. With Dustox out, I tried to waste as much of Armaldo's Ancient Power and then switched to Swallout, who was able to out-heal the damage of his other subpar moves with the use of Stockpile and Swallow. With Armaldo out of the way, I only had to make sure that we reapplied Aggron's burn after Steven had used his last full restore. Aggron has a pretty awful moveset, plus I can lower his accuracy with Sand Attack, so that Dusclops can Will-O-Wisp without taking damage. After Aggron faints, only his Metagross is left to face my Shedinja. As you can see, the Metagross was completely helpless, and although it tried to hold on with its berry, my victory was inevitable, and eventually I was one move away from winning. However, while fighting Steven, I realized that there was one crucial thing that I forgot to do. So, I decided to completely abandon all the progress I had made so far and redo the entire fight with Steven, even though this took me ages. I had to spend another 30 resets getting through Skarmory and the rest of his Pokemon, until it was just Shedinja and Metagross again. The resets were definitely worth it, as I made sure to win the last battle of the game in style, using some classic Pokeball BM. With that, I officially beat Pokemon Sapphire using only status damage. Though this took loads of effort, I really enjoyed. I hope you guys liked it. Do let me know what you think.